think we need this big AI program on both sides of the channel, but this is why we need a proper European approach.
Now we move over from Europe to the Middle East, where in a significant development, Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar has said that Israel was serious about reaching a Gaza ceasefire, adding that it is achievable. Saar added that if a temporary ceasefire is achieved, Israel will negotiate on a permanent one. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has until now refused to enter talks over an end to the Gaza war until Hamas is defeated. Indirect negotiations between Israel and Hamas over a ceasefire are ongoing this week in Doha. This is in parallel to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to Washington, where Israel and the US are intensifying efforts to reach a deal. We're now joined by Shruti Dasgupta, who's a foreign affairs expert, and she joins us live from the Indian capital. Thank you very much, Shruti, for joining us. There's some real optimism that has come about in recent weeks. What concrete steps do you think Israel will need to take to demonstrate that it is genuinely serious about reaching a Gaza ceasefire? There are fears that domestic politics in Israel is what's stopping Benjamin Netanyahu from going over the line here in negotiating an end to the war, including his coalition. However, on the other hand, you have Donald Trump pushing the Israeli Prime Minister to reach this ceasefire deal. Donald Trump does want to be known as this peacemaker. That's what he wants his legacy to be. What compromises do you think are on the table here for Benjamin Netanyahu and his government?
Greetings, Thomas. Thank you for inviting me. For the first time, I have heard Netanyahu put out a statement during this entire 21-month war to say that bringing the hostages back has become his supreme first primary goal. This was said sometime yesterday, and that shows to me that the domestic protests that were being held and the people of Israel, they were demanding that hostages first, Hamas later, and ceasefire is not their first goal. Their first goal is to bring every single live and dead hostage back, has made an impact on the Israeli PM, and he has put people first before his own or his party's political agenda. So that is a sure sign that the people of Israel are speaking out and making sure that the first condition becomes the return of people. And when the people start voicing and they are being heard by the PM, who has up till now been very, very one-man show in terms of his policies regarding Hamas, when these people start making an impact on what he says, make him change his stance, I feel there is a chance for an actual ceasefire, a truce to come forth. But again, the initiative lies in the hands of Hamas, as they always had. They could have handed up the entire 251 and waved the white flag, but they didn't. And this, in my own way, I feel it was a trap that was very well laid, and the price was paid by Gazans.
Yes, and Shruti, do you think this stance has come a bit late? As of late June, 50 hostages remain in captivity in Gaza. Of those remaining, at least 27 are confirmed dead by Israeli military intelligence. What are your thoughts on how Israel's approach to this war and the priority and safety of those hostages?
Well, we could never be sure, the world as well as Israel could never be sure how many of the hostages were alive or dead at any given point of time. They had to rely on intelligence sources or what the Hamas was willing to say. As of now, we know that the ceasefire deal would include a release of 10 living and 9 dead hostages and a phased release of the others, so that the truce holds for a while, rather than have your people back and then back to the guns it is. So it is, as I said in an earlier interview, that it is a political capital that Hamas tends to hold the live and the dead as a chokehold on Israel and its guns, that if you do not hold the line of peace, we will not send these people back, and which is a very false and very disturbing point of view, because you're not just holding the people who are alive, but the dead ones are not even being given the right to peace and their own religious burial. So it's difficult, but as I said, for the first time, people first, Israelis first has become the priority for PM Netanyahu, and that shows a change in stance, and that might lead to at least a small sliver of peace in that region.
Yes, but we've also had some opposition, Shruti, coming from inside Netanyahu's government, that being that of Itamar Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, his finance minister and security minister, and the parties that they are affiliated with. How much impact do you think that Benjamin Netanyahu's grasp on power through coalition will have on these peace talks?
A very fragile one, if I might say so, because the opposition demands a complete total annihilation of Hamas, because as we've known, this is history repeating itself, and Hamas regroups, rearms, and then attacks, replans and attacks, and despite the other wars that have happened in the Middle East right now, they are not completely as obliterated by the war and aggression by Israel as they would want to believe. So the right-wing coalition is wanting to put an end to this decades-long struggle that they have faced since the very moment of their inception of the land of Israel. So they want an end to that, and they're pushing Netanyahu for it, but Netanyahu cannot it's a small piece of land, and you might argue that Gaza is smaller than Israel, but Israel is surrounded by supporters of Gaza. It is surrounded by the Yemen, which is not physically, geopolitically surrounded, and it is being pressurized by Egypt to do the right and sit on the talking table, and it is being pressurized by Lebanon. And so it is difficult for Netanyahu to hold the hard line of aggression without paying in blood and consequences himself. On the other side of this argument, he has also in the last few days has walked into a part of his battalions have walked into southern Lebanon and said that they are doing this to manage and control and limit Hezbollah. They have also fired on ports in Yemen, and they have downed a power plant in Yemen. And so while the peace talks are continuing with Hamas, Israel continues to try to attain a level of leverage over all these proxy actors that tend to work in the favor of Gaza.
Yes, Shruti Dasgupta, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. Your insight is always very much valued. We now